Welcome to It's Meaningless. This is the podcast for entrepreneurs who are within the first 5 years of business and are tired of being stuck and they're ready to stomach the brutal truth. Here we uncover the meaningless daily habits that keep you from protecting and growing in life and in business. This is episode 18. We're talking about posing. Uh, posers, being fake, putting on airs. Um, yeah. So this is I don't know. So I guess probably one of the first things that comes to mind, especially from recently. There's I mentioned I'm reading this book um, called Trust by Henry Cloud, and there's a scenario that he talks about in there um, from I guess um, this lady who runs this business. She owns this business, and she hires a friend of hers to come in and help her. The business is growing. She's trying to get it scaled, and effectively, she needs some help. Some help. So she calls in a friend who comes in to help. Um, he pretty much kind of pretty much like steals money from the company, screws up like the only kind of responsibility, a bunch of the responsibility that he did have. Um, and it's kind of like it gets to the point of like where he's found out. And so they approach him. That is the lady, the owner, and her investors approach him, and he pretty much like um, denies any knowledge of like what he was doing, even though they have proof. And um, the thing that stuck out to me about that story was effectively the ending, which was like in the fact that he would not acknowledge what the deal was. Um, what the author concluded with was that the owner effectively there could have been a path forward for him, like even after all he did, there could have been a path for him with that organization if in the end, like that was even the position of the investors, but there could have been a path forward for him in that organization had he just told the truth. um and I think that to me that's kind of, I hope that's kind of sobering. It's kind of sobering for me. It's kind of sobering uh in the sense of how many times do we miss out on opportunities for trying to paint and keep up an image or picture. um, Effectively, how many times do we push aside and negate the help that we need, um, when like all it takes to get that help is just telling the truth. um, and I'm thinking like I kind of jumped in here like pretty quick, which is fine, um, which is fine because it's the truth. And it's like for me, like I'll say for me, like especially in business, being in business as an entrepreneur for the past 10 years, um, this is probably like I had trouble with this area. Well, in different ways. Like I've never been like, like, hey, look at me, blah 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 blah. Like I've never wanted to do that or be that. Um, but like there are other ways to pose. And so I say my way, or my most prone, the way that I'm most prone to do so, I found in business. Um, and part of this for me is kind of come from a mistaken view of what sales is. Um, a mistaken view of like what do you have to do to sell, of what it means. Um, and for me, well, I'll say this just to clarify. Like sales is like simply like, look, this person has a problem. I have a potential solution to that problem. I have something that can solve that problem. And so there's a conversation that engages to say, hey, look, I have this solution, I have this thing that can probably help you. Um, let's make this happen. Let me get you rolling. Um, so like that's what sales is. Um, it's help. It's helping somebody. Um, but for me, like in not really having a full understanding of that, my um, I thought it was convincing somebody of something, and not necessarily like against their will, but still was like, yeah, convincing somebody of something. Um, so my tendency, especially earlier out in sales, um, was kind of like to have this, I don't know, preset. What number one, like I had in my mind, like a preset image of what I need to look like, be like, appear like, come off as, in order to, I guess, get the message across, in order to um, sell the business. And I guess as a result, like there were a lot of times that that was fake. Yeah, I was fake. Um, like ultimately, did I want to help? Yeah, but I presented myself in a way um that said otherwise. Um, it really made it more about the sale than like what is this person going through right now. Um, so wanting to help, but still not really being a big help. In other words, could I have helped them? Yeah, sure. Um, but and I did in a lot of cases. But at the same time, too, um, the way I presented my focus at the time, like what I was focused on, was just something other than what would really be beneficial for them in that moment. Um, yeah. Um, so let me, well, just to put it into context, um, when I showed up, the result was kind of being that when I showed up to sales meetings, almost all the time I was nervous. Um, nervous. Um, I don't know, like a little extra uptight, uh, and yes, relaxed would not have been like anywhere close to. And don't get me wrong, you probably don't want to necessarily be like too relaxed. Uh, comfortable, I would say. Maybe a little nervous, maybe a little, just a smidge, maybe. Um, but realistically, for me, like best case scenario, um, my I feel better about sales meetings when I go in, like pretty much now, like when I go in with um like the same amount of confidence, same amount of assurance, calm, whatever, that I will go anywhere else. Um, Effectively, I feel comfortable if I'm me inside of the sales presentation. Otherwise, like, what am I selling? Um, I say like, what am I selling? Because one of the things I've picked up in sales training um, is effectively in any sales conversation, like you are selling yourself. Um, you're selling yourself. And the reason I say that is because like you are what they see. Um, like you could be selling, I don't know, you could be selling this as a product. Like they can see it. Um, Obviously you probably wouldn't. I don't know. Maybe you might be selling a batch of 20,000, whatever. But anyway, they could see it, whatever. They may even be able to try it out temporarily, but like they don't know um what the long term effects of this product is going to be. Whether or not they'll last, I don't know, till next week. Um, they just won't know until they tried it out. So, in other words, when you're selling something, if you haven't first sold yourself, like you can't possibly sell them on the product. Um, yeah, if they're not willing to buy you, then they won't be willing to buy the product. Because in other words, there's still too many unknowns about the product. You can come in with proof and proof and proof, and that's great. Like all that helps, and at the same time, there does have to be they have to be sold on you. Because in other words, they when they're sold on you, that means that they know that what you say they can believe. And yeah, that's the biggest to me. That is the biggest part of selling. Um, but so anyway, that the issue of opposing sales has been the, the time when that's come out the most for me. Um, the reason that this is kind of a big deal, um, we talked about, at least I've talked about before, like how people can pick up on this stuff, and that's kind of the thing, especially for my example of like uh, the sales conversations, like anything that I'm putting off, people are picking up. They're clued in on. They're picking up on. Um, and so I don't know, like the whole posing thing. I'll get a little bit into the why. The whole posing thing is kind of like it's effectively is hiding. Um, like every time we try to, I don't know, build up some image, create some image, make things look in a way that they aren't really. The goal is to hide something, and like sometimes that's legitimately um that's probably not a good word for this. Um, Sometimes there are things that I guess technically it would be illegitimately. In other words, there sometimes there's things that like you've been dishonest about that like, you don't want people to know about. But in my experience, more than not, when people are posing, um, putting on the front, being fake, in my experience, most of the time is because like there may be a little bit of the I'm not telling the truth about something, but most of the time, the thing that I'm not telling the truth about is I don't feel confident about me. Um, in other words, there's some level of self-loathing, um, self-hatred, um, shame that I experience about myself, uh, but I don't want other people to see, and that was definitely the thing for me. Um, that was definitely the thing for me. Um, it's like I don't see myself as good enough, um, worthy enough, and so the idea is like it's not really super rational, but the idea is um, if I can't, then how can other people? Um, and so if that's the thing that's going on up here, then the natural thing is I need to find some way to like appear some way that I'm not, or I need to find some way to appear some way that differently from the way that I think I am, so that other people see me as I don't know somebody they want to buy from, or someone that they want to do business with, or someone they want to be friends with, or um, whatever the nature of the relationship. Um, because no one like I'm gonna put this out there like I don't think anybody um I don't think anybody like likes to be fake on purpose. Um just for the sake of being fake. Um because like at the end of the day, like I said, everybody can see it. Everybody can see it. And at the end of the day, like all of us already know that. And yet, like we try to do it anyway, which means that the pain that we're trying to mask or cover or hide or not show must be that much greater um, than um, I don't know the risk. It's not really a risk. It's pretty much 100%. The risk of being uncovered or discovered as being fake. Um, and obviously, I'm not talking so much about um, trying to. Obviously, I'm not talking about trying to for evil, malicious intent, like trying to deceive people. Deceive people. That's a different story. Um, yeah, that's a different kind of. Yeah, that's a comment. Calm man, calm person. Um, but which is not like the topic of this. Like if that's your thing, you're in business, then like the only thing I would say to that is like one of the things I think one of the best things I've heard on that is like you can fool people once, you can fool people a few times, but like if your hope and your desire is to create like a long term business, a long term strategy, um, it's kind of hard to do that. Especially if you're talking about at scale. Um, but um, yeah, so like if that's for people who are kind of like that, like okay, like that's that's a lose lose proposition. Like eventually it'll catch up to you in one way or the other. In one way or the other. Um, but yeah, but mainly this conversation is for like I don't know, we have goals we want to achieve. We have things we want to get out there. We have people we want to help. But at the end of the day, there's something that says, um, I'm not good enough. And again, like the why is like about how I feel about me. And at the same time, the more that we do it, like the more we put on the mask, the thing, oh man, it's like this is the um epitome of self-fulfilling prophecies. Um, the more we do it, the more evidence we get that we need to do it. And the problem with that evidence is it's negative evidence. In other words, it's not positive evidence. In other words, it's not like, okay, it's very rarely like, oh, I I did this thing, I set up this image, and oh man, I got this whole bunch of business. So this image must be good. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, there's sometimes that like things will come through, but I have not seen like, and you can correct me if you're wrong, if I'm wrong. Um, but I have not seen. Um, yeah, you could let me know if you have, but I have not seen um, a situation where someone was like just super faking it, like like being inauthentic, um, and they were crushing it, like I mean, like super crushing it, um, in business. Now, don't get me wrong, like I've seen that in short term, um, like 5 years, like um, or less, um, but even that, like I still don't know that I've really seen that. Um, and of course, like part of this conversation goes to question of like, are you looking? And I'll say for for this conversation, it's like, are you looking for like long term results, or are you kind of looking for like fly by night kind of stuff? And like for this podcast, for this conversation, like this is definitely about the long game. My goal, my goal in business is I always look to um like the people I look to in business are the ones who are like um they who are I want to say pillars, um people who are, I guess you can say, established, but I don't think that's strong enough. um like people who've been at the top and they stay at the top. In other words, they're at the top so long that they rarely they rarely get in the news. Um, they're at the top so long that they rarely get in the news, or they rarely get highlighted in the news. Um, People just forgot about them at the top. Those are the people that I look at. Um, like the people that pop up yesterday and um are here for, I don't know, a couple years, few years. Like that's cool. Like there's something to me. There's something to learn from everybody. But of course, as far as like what I want to replicate, I'd like to replicate um being at the top and being there with like stable, sure footing, like consistency, as opposed to um, like that kind of thing. Like I don't know, like it's for some people that's cool. I guess I don't know. I think I like my adventure somewhere else. Like I like to mix things up. I like to do some crazy stuff, but in that area, I like things rather steady-ish. Um, don't get me wrong, like I'm not saying no risk. Like there's no I don't think you stay at the top without being able to take risks. So there is that level, but at the same time, like there is a different, and I guess it's probably one of the things. Like if you look at people like that, like anybody that you can think of that comes to mind that have been at the top of their field for like 10, 20, 30 plus years, especially like 30 plus. Um, One thing I can point out for pretty much all those people are they are themselves. Um, they're yeah, they're themselves. They're themselves up there. They are themselves everywhere they go. Um, no matter who they're talking to, they're just them. They don't have a side alter ego thing going on. Um, they're just them. Um, but so I mean, that's effectively the goal I'm shooting for. And effectively, as far as you are concerned, my my encouragement to you, because part of this conversation is about like what it costs us, and I think that is what it costs us is being able to be like the best of the best, that is the best of the best in like in what you are made to do. Because it's like you can have a gift, you can have an ability, you can have a talent, and you can actually literally be the best, and yet nobody know you. Which this whole thing of posing is a guarantee that nobody will know you because it's like you're taking the time and energy to construct this image, um, which barricades, obfuscates, and makes unclear what's behind it. So how could people possibly know you, know your gift, know the extent of your gift if you've always got this image that you think is better um, mounted up for people to see instead of showing your face, which is why I say like for Zoom meetings, like as much as possible, cameras on. But anyway, I did a podcast about that. You can check that out if you want. But anyway, that's all I have for this one. Um, so hopefully no posing. I think like keep digging. If that's something that you kind of pick up on, something that kind of resonates with you, um, keep digging. Like I am a huge fan of good therapists. And I'll put that good in there on purpose. I'm a huge fan of good therapists. Take time to walk through it with a good therapist. friends, whoever, um, journaling, huge fan of that too. Um, but yeah, that's getting past this part. And it's not like everything is still like, for me, it's still a work in progress. There are times where I'm tempted to uh, put on airs, pose, whatever, try to try to present myself in a way that I think other people will better receive me. And I'm gonna call that futility. I'm gonna call it futility. So yeah, that's all I got for today. Take care. God bless. Bye.